This is a 100 out of 10. This promo.
He's not one of the boys. Where would he learn that shit at? Where's he going up and down the road talking our jargon? In the building? Everybody's in their own motor coach. There's no interaction. There's no socialization. You don't become one. You don't become one of the boys just because you're around them. That, from what I heard, he's making like $5 million for a limited, and those other are out there making house shows. F you.
Let's talk about these comments first. Okay. So this is one of those things where, the conspiracy side of me is kind of saying, hey, are they starting something? And like, because Kevin Nash and Triple H are tight. Logan Paul's featured. He's not doing anything right now. So my antennas go up of, is it a work? Meaning Logan Paul work means it's not real, just to remind him. But when Kevin's saying this, this is a tale as old as the many eras in pro wrestling. When Kevin Nash and Scott Hall and the Clique were changing the business and doing everything, what do you think the previous generation of the old timers or veterans were saying about them? Probably along the lines of the same thing, right? Where they're doing stuff for money, they're politicking, they're using their power. Shane Douglas, who used to have a show here, which I did not replace, just to remind everybody. But Shane still swears up and down, as far as I know, and last time I talked to him, that group of people had starved him out in a 6-month period. He made $1,400, and he was on their S list, as they would call it. So they're politically, he was a pariah, and he was basically starved out. This is Shane's story. He has not switched this in decades since it happened. So that's where that comes in. Also, right now, guys like me, Russo, Nash, even to a point Dutch and other people, we're going to talk about AEW in the current generation. It's always going to be the looking back, the comparison is the thief of joy type of stuff. Now, Kevin was also famous in a lot of shoot interviews saying this saying from Captain Lou Albano. There's only 2 things in wrestling that are real: the money and the miles. Okay. Maybe Logan Paul isn't putting as many miles on the odometer as other people, but as workers, and okay, let's go back a second. Punk would rock, part-timer. Cena would rock, part-timer. Then Cena became a part-timer. Austin Theory, Cena, part-timer. Everybody has this trope of, talking about like, you need to be full-time and go here and there. Isn't the point of being in pro wrestling working as little as possible and making the most amount of money? Whether within
do you know who else was a part-timer? Bill Watts, for years in Mid-South. And he drew all the time because he was a part-timer.
Fritz von Erich. But, yeah, I'm with you. Now, Kevin, where he's coming from is not completely wrong. The way it's verbalized, the way it's put, the point is lost with all the swearing and stuff like that. I have a problem with that being from Philly. I try to be very good about that on the show, except when you told me about subtitles and I had to swear at you. But he's right in the way that he's speaking up. And here's the thing I thought about as I was reading it once again. Is there someone else saying this, or many people in the locker room that Kevin is friendly with, and maybe includes Triple H, that didn't want to afford all these things to Logan Paul? And Kevin is being the avatar speaking up, maybe for a lot of the boys that think that about Logan Paul. So that's just, I'm throwing it out there with that. We can do Logan Paul's reaction, and then we have a comparison chart of who the best worker out of these 2 is, in my opinion.
We talked, 7 weeks ago or something like that about Kevin Nash and CM Punk. And once again, Nash was bemoaning the fact that, hey, when I was in the business in 95, I had a triceps tear and I had to be back on the road in a month. And it was like, well, that's fine. But also, Kevin Nash will, and I'll get back to Punk in a second, and that Punk was taking time off to actually heal his injuries. How dare he? And the fact is that Kevin Nash also seems to take a lot of pride, or a lot of credit at least, that he was, along with Scott Hall, one of the guys to raise contract prices and annual income for all the wrestlers in the business. He takes a lot of credit for that publicly many times over. But then when people are making more money than him for less dates, and also let's keep in mind that Kevin Nash, he's the worst messenger in the world for this, is what I'm saying. Is how many dates did he just skip in WCW? How many wrestling matches did he just get out of? I mean, it started on publicly Starrcade 97 when he was supposed to wrestle Big Show giant Paul White, and he said he had a heart attack that day, so Scott Hall had to not lose to him either. And then TNA, he was part-time the entire way through there. He was probably making nearly 7 figures a year just to turn up and sit down in backstage segments. Kevin Nash is not the messenger for this message, surely.
Well, I don't think anybody's the messenger for it, because here we go with the boys always looking at other, and he's not active. But let me say this too, because I should have led with this very thing. I personally like Kevin. I communicate with him here and there, off and on, and I have no problem with him. He's an intelligent guy. He's a charismatic guy. We're getting to the comparison. I think he's still one of the best workers, especially for a big man, 7 feet tall. Coming from another worker, you compare him to a Goldberg. Kevin Nash has never hurt anybody. He's definitely a professional in the ring. He's never hurt me. How's that?
He hurt Giant, but that was more Giant's fault for putting on like 100 pounds. Yeah,
the power bomb. Well, that's
that wasn't Kevin Nash's fault though.
That's indicative of the actual spot. And we go back to the finishers. You got to be able to do it to everybody. Now, Kevin could do it to everybody but one person, so that kind of like the asterisk. But and Paul is incredibly athletic and could probably take a power bomb at one point. But Kevin at least has the intention of not hurting anybody, of making sure that you wake up the next day and you're able to still feed your family. That's whatever personal issues people have with him, or they say whatever about the quad and everything like that. By the way, Kevin came back and he was in better shape when he came back, and he's in better shape now at 65 years old. So the guy works hard. He looks great. He still has a great mind for the business. But I do agree with you that the message is lost with the messenger bringing it. But in this day and age, this is a tired old trope, like I said before, of always saying, like even Drew and Punk, I'm protecting this business. I'm protecting the locker room from you. It's like, who cares at this point? Pay attention to your own money, your own stuff.
And I'd never begrudge anyone from, because it was like the Swerve Strickland thing recently. Oh, someone in Dave Meltzer released it. Who knows if it's true or not? But someone in WWE, were unhappy that Swerve Strickland's getting paid a lot of money by Tony Khan. It's like, well, one, whose business is it? And good for Swerve. He's making money. Great. Okay, let's get to Logan Paul's retort.
I got people messaging me. They're like, yo, Kevin Nash is talking shit about you. I said, damn. Who is Kevin Nash? And I mean that. I'm unfamiliar with this guy, which I think is his problem. I'm not as versed in the WWE and in wrestling as maybe I should be, as my peers are. But then how am I so much better than all of them? I don't have the answers to these questions. It is a question. I don't know how I could be the best in the WWE, or at least one of the best. Like, I'm surely a top fiver, and I don't even do it full time. Now imagine if I did learn a little bit. Imagine if I devoted, came one of the boys, learned what the difference between a shoot and a work was. Will that make me a champion? Me? You. You're one of the old guys who is bitter that I am better at your job than you ever were. And that makes you pathetic. This will be my sport, and I will continue to make guys like you eat your words when I devote a little bit of time to it. So fuck me, fuck you.
This was the best promo that Logan Paul's ever done. We're going to do a breakdown of this, comparing Logan Paul in the ring cutting promos to this. This is a 100 out of 10, this promo. And right here, this proves also sometimes that guys, and I'm not saying Kevin is in this, but he's a little more in than out. When somebody's in the wrestling bubble or a bubble in general, and they think they can take a swipe at somebody, thinking that they can intimidate him or make them do whatever because he's a young boy and he doesn't have a lot of experience. And then this dude just comes out and said, F me, F you. Kind of puts it right back in his face. The opening right there, whether authentic or not, is the death blow right off the bat. Like, I don't even know who you are, dude, which I may believe that because Logan Paul is so much set into another world all its own. And you have to give him credit, dude. He is one of the best guys in the business right now, doing it very limited basis, a very, very limited basis. Who cares if you rehearse it with Shawn Michaels, you go over your match, you do it 100 times. When the cameras are on, the lights are on, and it's live, even the best people that rehearsed a million times will shrink up under the pressure. This dude excels at it. And this here, dude, I would, if they wanted to, like I said, my little mind is working to say, is there something here they're trying to like pull in a new crowd and make a match out of this or make some kind of angle? Maybe. And if they're not, based off all this, they should, because this is interesting.
Yeah, but I mean, physically, what could Kevin Nash do now? I know he got his knee fixed and everything, but as you say, he's 65, he's huge, and the bigger you are, the worse you age in that sense that, you know, your body's going to break down quicker than you know, someone like half your size, I guess.
Well, Kevin could always be an advocate for somebody else and involved in it, or bring somebody new from NXT into WWE to fight Logan Paul to get that kind of rub off of both guys. I don't have the answer. I just know this kind of stuff, they're talking crap. And this is usually how it goes back and forth in UFC and boxing and other things where they're using social media. Yeah, I don't know. If it gets squashed, then I know that they were just doing their thing and they went on their own way. But both guys have points. But I remember looking at the Logan Paul video and just saying to myself, this is what happens when a wrestler thinks they can punch down on somebody and treat them as they would an NXT kid or somebody like that. And it turns around and this dude's like, you're not going to affect my money. You're not going to affect my point. And if I don't go to WWE, I got 15 other things going on. And this is something, I don't know this guy. I like Kevin. I get along great with Kevin. And like I said, Kevin is cool to be around. I've heard the exact opposite about Logan Paul and the type of personality he is. But we're not talking about personalities with this, nor the segment coming up. It's an objective, nuts and bolts look at who could be better for business or who has been better for business.
Do you know, just because you were saying that, well, someone who Kevin Nash was apparently punching down to was just beforehand LA Knight. And I wonder if LA Knight had basically just come out and just said that and basically just dusted his hands off and moved on, then I think that would have... yeah, Logan Paul had a better response than LA Knight to Kevin Nash's.
LA Knight had to do the pro wrestling, like, let me just hit it. Like, it's not a verb, it's an adjective. Or, you remember about the thing he talked... Kevin said something, I can't even remember it, so long ago.
Look at the adjective. Look at the adjective. Play WCW NWO debut.
Yeah. So LA Knight had to slide it in where only the most inside baseball smart marks would get it. Logan Paul just spoke to what, 80 million people. Now the good part for Kevin is people are going to check out his show. So Logan Paul, F you. There.
So there you go. Right.